Hello, everyone, and welcome to Cherries Red Army. It's Bournemouth, last Premier League game, last fixture of 2022. It's our last preview. Thanks for joining me and Aaron. We're going to get stuck into this game. We're going to break this fixture down for you like we always do. But Aaron, it's been overall a very, very good 2022 for AFC Bournemouth. The highlight, returning back to the Premier League, promotion from the Championship.
Exactly, a mission complete, wasn't it? Really, Scott Park had a remit in our second season to get us back up where we failed the season before, and he fully succeeded in that. Job done, and a few bumps along the road, but generally, a great end to the season. Some memorable moments. Obviously, that Forest game will live long in the memory. And then, obviously, then back in the Premier League, back where we wanted to be. I think many of us didn't think we might, get back there as quickly or ever again, but back we came, and we finished the year hopefully outside that relegation zone.
Never been in the relegation zone, back in the Premier League, and the roller coaster will continue into 2023. If you are checking out this video, whether you're a Bournemouth fan or a Crystal Palace fan, please do hit the like button. We try and set a minimum of 50 likes on these videos, so show some love. Please do hit the like button and subscribe. Now, you might just want to follow Bournemouth on our YouTube journey across 2023. So subscribe if you haven't subscribed already. And of course, at the end of this video, you're going to hear what we've had to say, and we want to know what you're thinking ahead of this fixture in the comments. It's also a perfect time to also thank everyone who has supported Cherries Red Army in 2022. Whether you've liked the videos, commented, interacted in the chat, we'll be doing more live streams in 2023. Followed our socials, and of course the legends, which are the monthly members every month supporting the channel, donating. You have been absolutely massive for us. And anyone who's also just donated just to support. Some people have donated more than once, and recently we've had Dave King re-donate and Martin as well. And you can become a member or donate in 2023 at buymeacoffee.com/Cherries Red Army. So thank you very much. We can't ever say thank you enough, but we really love what we do, and we're glad that you enjoy yourself as well. On Saturday, Bournemouth then back at home, final game, New Year's Eve against Crystal Palace. Two teams in very similar patches, very, very difficult, massive fixture for AFC Bournemouth. First of all, though, the last games for both teams. Let's start with Crystal Palace, Aaron. It was a 3-0 loss versus Fulham, a team that also got promoted with us outside the Championship. Patrick Vieira, I'm sure, would not have been happy. 2 sendings off, didn't even register a shot on target. I mean, that wasn't a great day out for the fans at home for Crystal Palace.
No, I mean, first came back, obviously, after the World Cup break in front of their own supporters. I'm sure that was the last thing they wanted. I think even before the sending off, they were a goal down, weren't they? So, they're a funny team, Palace. We'll come on to them, obviously, in a bit more depth when we preview our fixture against them. But, Fulham are a decent team. But I think at home, Palace normally do really, really well. 2 sendings off. One of them certainly would be good news for us. I think the other one probably wouldn't have played anyway, but we'll come on to that. But yeah, a poor afternoon all round, which can work both. Can work 2 ways for us. One of 2 ways. It could either be, a real confidence low, and then they're a bit low on confidence, and going into our fixture back on a real downer, or as is likely to be the case. And Patrick Vieira said in his match of the day interview, it was unacceptable performance levels, and he expects a big reaction on Saturday, which could be not great news for us.
I mean, with the attacking talent they have in that squad, some very good creative young players, Eze, Elise, Sahar, who we'll speak about a little bit more later on, not to register a shot on target. I know they had some sendings off, but that is probably the most disappointing thing for Patrick Vieira.
Yeah, I mean, they hit the bar. I think Ayew hit the bar, but that doesn't actually count as a shot on target, as we know. It's just I was kind of flicking between that. I had it on the Amazon Prime and saw kind of bits of that game, and Fulham fully deserved the win. Palace looked just off it, as you say. They got a lot of talent in that team, and they just were off it. And I'd rather they say their off day for Saturday. Hopefully they can carry that on. But it's unlikely to be that 2 in a row. But they really weren't at the races.
No, I think that's 2 losses in the Premier League now for them, and 2 games without scoring. And I think it was against Nottingham Forest and Fulham. So we'll talk more about Crystal Palace going into this fixture, but that was their last game, a 3-0 loss against Fulham. Now, AFC Bournemouth, there's been a few days since our loss at Stamford Bridge, which was a 2-0 to Chelsea. And on the channel, there is an 11-minute review reaction from me and Matt Davies as we were heading back from the ground. But we do need to touch on it again, Aaron. So let's do that, because I know that I was sat with you in the pub before the game. Lineups were out. And I said to you, Aaron, I said I was worried. Okay. I'm never really in for the back three, but I understood what he was trying to achieve. But what I had in there was that when we got the ball, I felt like we would be under pressure to be good with it. And if we weren't good with it, we'd give it away, and we'd be defending an awful lot in that first 30 minutes. And although you set yourself up to be hard to beat, and you stop the lines and you close the gaps, if you don't do that and you go in 2-0 down, the game's over. And then you just make the changes that actually benefit Bournemouth, our DNA of playing a back four and being progressive and expansive. And I felt like the formation, the way we set up, the first 25 minutes stifled our attack. We had 1 shot on target, which was the first 2 minutes, a Billing free kick. And although we were better in the second half, it was just about gaining some heart. And Chelsea had done all their work. Why did they need to exhaust themselves when they had already pretty much won the game in the first half?
Yeah, it was frustrating all round. You know, for many of us, apart from the loyal few who went to Newcastle, it was our first game back after many weeks. So we were all quite excited about that. Nice to see everybody. And I think we've become conditioned to getting good results at Stamford Bridge. You know, I've been there 4 or 5 times. I think I've only ever seen us lose once, and that includes 3 victories. So, you know, certainly it's a happy hunting ground for us. I think when, you know, we talking about we've had some good results. Well, Everton certainly was a good result with a back four, and I think arguably the performances, certainly for the first 60 minutes, as we know, against Leeds and against Tottenham, and earlier on when we beat Leicester, were all back fours. And I think, correct me if I'm wrong, I think the last time we went to a back 5 was that Southampton game, which was probably just about pipped Chelsea game for the worst performance of the season, bar Liverpool, I guess. So it was. I could understand the reasoning. I mean, obviously Lloyd Kelly was back, wanting to get him back in the team, although Meps was ill. The problem is if you're going to have player back 5 and your wing backs don't get up the pitch, the least you can do is keep the opposition out. We didn't have much of a threat going forward. Kiefer Moore didn't have a great day. Dom played really well for me, but again, there was no kind of support. There was no width for him to play with the wingers. So if you're going to stay in the game, like we did at Newcastle in the Carabao Cup, shows my age, with a back 4, incidentally, then, you know, if you go 2 down within 25 minutes, as you say, the game's against a confidence lacking Chelsea, then what's the game plan? Because you haven't kept it tight. You're giving them space all over the pitch. The press was poor. I think Tony Pulis summed it up when I saw his post-match reactions, was there didn't seem to be any desire in our team whatsoever. Nobody actually seemed to know what they were doing, and that was the biggest indictment. So then obviously Gary then changed it to a 4 after 25 minutes. Realizing, obviously it's good to realize you've made an error and change it as quickly as you can, which he did. And Jack Stacey went to kind of right midfield. And then obviously in that second half, as you said, Jadon Anthony came on, a more natural winger, and we went toe to toe with them, or tried to. Yes, there's an element of Chelsea didn't need to go forward anymore, but we caused them far more problems. The back 4 looked comfortable in their roles. Everyone knew what they were doing. And then we got some width in the team, and that made a big difference to us. But the game had gone, and I think for everyone who was there, felt like we could play for another couple of hours and not score, really. So a really frustrating day all round. And look, Chelsea, it's a cliche. We're not going to stay up with against teams like Chelsea, but in the past we have. So yeah, we have stayed up with results at teams like Chelsea.
Could have been more as well if Mark Travers hadn't made some really big saves. We need to add a note here as well that Chris Mepham was a late removal from the team. He was unwell, arguably our player of the season so far. So look, that's going to be a big loss for us, especially away at Stamford Bridge. Where I get confused there is if we've set up and pre-planned to play a a back five, a back three, that if Mepham comes out, for me, the obvious choice is for Stevens to come in. He had a good game against Everton, arguably man the match in a game we scored 3 goals. If I think that why wouldn't Stevens come into that team? Is it because O'Neill doesn't trust Adam Smith, one of the fittest players in pre-season, to get up and down the flank for 90 minutes? And that's why he's tucked Adam Smith inside. I know Smith's played in there at times. I think he did it in the second half against Nottingham Forest. But if Mepham comes out, really, I think I want Stevens going in. And then the second point that we spoke about before the game even kicked off, Aaron, was if we're going to be that deep and we're going to have 8 men behind the ball, we need real pace and creativity and a little bit of flair with the 3 that might go in those turnovers and limited opportunities we're going to have in that first half. Now, when you don't have Tavernier, the best dribbler in the league, are probably our most creative player, someone that was in form leading into the World Cup. I was then saying to you, Aaron, if you can remember, maybe Billing or Moore need to come out to play Dembele. Now, I probably don't pick Dembele if we're playing a back 4 and we're playing a lineup that's more natural to us. He probably doesn't make my starting 11. But when I saw the lineup, I was like, this is a game for potentially Dembele. You need someone who can travel, take you up the pitch, give you 45 seconds breathing space, and potentially pull something out the bag. And that's why I felt that the Billing, Moore, Solanke triangle just would break down. And it did. It did break down. We just didn't get going. Nothing happened. Billing was not in a great place. Kiefer Moore wasn't in a great place. And the other player you may be thinking about that's been highlighted to me as well, Aaron, is Joe Rothwell. Someone that we brought in who can carry the ball, has talent, got 10 assists for Blackburn. Why is he not playing? I mean, I can only think that he's just not showing enough in training or he's just not match fit still. But he was on the bench.
Yeah, it's an anomaly, isn't it? With Joe Rothwell, he's obviously got a lot of talent. I think you highlighted that Meps and Tavernier both out, and arguably our 2 best players this season so far. So a big loss. But having known that, then you've got to try and counteract that with trying to replace. So Jaden Anthony, was great against Everton, to be fair, it's been great whenever he's come on this season and played. He could have maybe taken up that Tavernier role, but he's left on the bench. Dembele had a cameo. Again, looks so bright, causes problems. His acceleration off the first few yards is just incredible, really. And yes, he might not have the strength, but no defender likes pace or players running at them. For me, he came on a bit too late. And the problem is that Zamora, who is so good going forward, as we know, and he actually showed it towards the end of the second half, was pinned back so far because Chelsea knew that Moore obviously isn't going to get him behind. That's not his game. And Dom drops much deeper, and Phil Billing hasn't got electric pace. They had no worry about a high line against us, no worries about giving us space in midfield, and they pinned us back, and that pinned Zamora and Stacey back to the extent that they couldn't get forward. And they were having a field day down that left-hand side. I mean, Lloyd Kelly was rusty. He needs minutes to get that rustiness out of him, but he looked, as I said, rusty. He looked slow. He looked lax. So yeah, problems all over the pitch really. Lerma looked off it. Again, you can blame a bit of rustiness. A lot of teams are rusty, and having not played for a few weeks, obviously we had that Carabao Cup game, but yeah, just frustrating that we just weren't at it. Chelsea were, I think, there for the taking's the wrong word, but they haven't won in 5. Potter's still trying to work out his formations, and players are out of form, so they were certainly there for something from the game. And I just feel that if we had gone at them from the start with the same formation that we know works for us time and time again, we might have got something more out of that game.
We might still have lost, but it might have been a better loss in regards to being proactive and giving them a bit more of a game in that first half. I want to move on because we do want to focus on Saturday. I just want to show one more thing, though, for the viewers. Now, this is on SofaScore, if you're interested in just looking at the breakdown of the game. And I want to just show you something on here that they've added to SofaScore. And this is called the momentum bar, if you can see my cursor. Now, the momentum bar just shows the team dominance between 0 on the clock and 90 minutes. Now, you'll see that Chelsea are in green and Bournemouth are in blue. And that first spell there of dominance, Aaron, is the first 15, 20 minutes. And that just pretty much tells you that they were dominating the ball, they were dominating the attack, and we pretty much weren't in the game. And at that point, we were 1-0 down. We got on the board a little bit after that, and then they scored again around here. And as you go into the second half, when they've took their foot off the gas, we're in a more natural formation. We've got players like Jaden Anthony having combinations with Zamora. We dominated the last part of the game there, as you'll see, looking at the bar. And that for me is just massive to show you an overview of how that game went in momentum and dominance between the teams.
Yeah, I mean, interestingly enough, even the second half, you see the first half of that second half was pure Chelsea domination, even after we'd changed our formation and brought Jaden on and gave it a bit more of a go. But it wasn't really until the last 10, 15 minutes where we had a succession of corners, for which we took Kiefer Moore off at that stage. I know he wasn't having a good game, but if we lose a third, then so be it. But leave him on the pitch. If you're going to get Anthony and Dembele on and Christie came on, get crosses in the box. We know how lethal Kiefer Moore can be, even if he wasn't having a good game. So I would probably have sacrificed someone else at that stage. But it was easy for Chelsea. I've got living up here. I've got a few mates obviously support Chelsea. They couldn't believe how easy it was for them. I think they were scared before the game because of our history against Chelsea, and I think the words they used for us were toothless and inept. So I think I'd probably concur with them.
Right, let's move on to Crystal Palace then. What are they going to bring to Dean Court on Saturday? They're a side that are comfortably a Premier League team now, year in, year out. They're 11th in the league. Their form is loss, win, and 2 losses against Nottingham Forest and Fulham. And players that they're looking to help them in the league are Eze with top assists of 3 and Wilfried Zaha with 6. A player that's likely to be linked away again in January, always is. He'll probably lead the line potentially, or Edouard might. But these are players that we've got to keep quiet. And Patrick Vieira is going to be looking for his side Aaron to score a goal. They haven't scored in 2 against 2 teams we played in the Championship last season.
Yeah, we know what that means. We love to give break hoodoos. I mean, I know they were poor on Saturday at home. Again, my impression, and I might be wrong, is that they're far better at home and away. Not that they haven't got away results this year, but Selhurst Park with that noise is quite a fortress, and so away from home maybe they're not as good, but they have got great attacking talent. Not so great defensively for me. Obviously, they're going to miss Mitchell now. Tompkins obviously was sent off as well. I don't think he only played actually because Gay was suspended for 1 match. So. Yeah. Unfortunately for us, I think Gay would have come in anyway for Tompkins. But yeah, look, having said that, they're quite deceptive. I'm always surprised when Palace kind of struggling, because I kind of think, I think I do rate Patrick Vieira. You've already mentioned some of the attacking talent they got, Elise and Edouard, and obviously Zaha, as you've already said, and they've got a lot, a real creative players who can cause problems, pace in the team as well. IU is always a thorn in our side. So it's going to be a very difficult game. Both teams need to react. Both teams need to bounce back. I think Palace, for them, really need to kind of just, I wouldn't at this moment in time, I'm not kind of considering them as relegation candidates with us. But I think, if we beat them and then they carry on a couple more poor random forms, they'll be dragged down. I think they want to kind of put an end to that as soon as possible.
Yeah, I think they've had 1 win away from home at West Ham, but they only beat teams in the bottom half of the table. That was exactly the same scenario with Chelsea. So they've beaten no one in the top 10. And fixtures between the teams, we'll look at the head-to-heads later on near the end, but they are a bit up and down. There's wins for both teams. There's draws. It's a tough one to call, but as I spoke about earlier on, no doubt, World Cup winner Patrick Vieira, Premier League winner with Arsenal, Patrick Vieira would have got stuck into that team at full time. They're going to be well up for this. They're going to want to finish the season on a high, like we are, and I'm sure they're going to turn up. And moving on to Bournemouth, that really puts the pressure on for me, Aaron, because I know that Gary O'Neill had those 12 games as interim. For me, it's completely irrelevant. I don't think there was a lot of pressure on him. The main task would have been buy time. And as it went on, it ended up that he got the job through the last week of football before the World Cup. And I don't think that was ever the case until the 2 Everton games. So when he took this job, when he was given this head coach role, it's almost like a reset, because it's a different job. It looks the same job, but it's not the same. This one's now got pressure and expectation. We've had a takeover as well. And I really, really wanted us to get something at Stamford Bridge, not because I don't want us to lose, but because I wanted Gary O'Neill to get that point or those 3 points, not to relax him. Because I think if we don't pick up a result, I think it makes this game even bigger than it was. If we don't get anything from this game, then United, what does he do there? And then you end up going to Brentford, and that is down the road. But my point is, the quicker he doesn't pick up any points, I think that pragmatic, that focus on the opposition just ramps up. And then I'm just worried that we're not going to let our players loose. And that's where we're at our best, especially at home. And we're good at home, Aaron, because we picked up results against Aston Villa. We picked up draws. Maybe not the best games in the world, but we picked up draws against Wolves and Brentford, and we've beaten Everton. We know we're good at home. He's got to let those reins off a bit on Saturday. Pressure is on because he can't lose it.
Yeah, I think he really needs a result. I mean, yes, this was his first game as permanent manager, but he went into that with in league, 4 defeats and 5 in the league. As you say, a win, a good performance against a woeful Everton who just lost at home to the bottom of the table Wolves. It's now 5 defeats in 6 games. As you say, if we do lose to Crystal Palace and then we go away to United, it could be 7 defeats in 8, and then you go away to a difficult Brentford, and then you got Forest at home. So 4 points out of the last 21 for Gary O'Neill in both capacities isn't great reading. So there's a lot of pressure on him this game. Whether he releases the shackles, as you say, and goes at it, or whether he's a bit more pragmatic and just wants to try and stay in the game. Or I think at home to Palace, you've got to go for it. You've got the players, the ability on those wingers, even without Tavernier. As I said, mentioned Anthony already. Christie can do a job there. Dembele, obviously, other players as well. And different, with the back four, you can play different systems, 4-4-2 or 4-3-3 or 4-2-3-1, whatever you want to do. But for me, there's a lot of pressure in this game. Going away to United is very, very difficult. And, you don't want to suddenly go into that Brentford game in a couple of weeks with 7 defeats in 8, because that is relegation form.
And predicted lineups going into this game then, and what we've done is we've used the Football Fantasy Scout again just to gauge what they're thinking, and doesn't mean it's what we're thinking or what we think will happen. But let's look at Crystal Palace. They've just released this on Thursday. You can find this on their website, Fantasy Football Scout, and they've gone for Gaeta, Klein, former Bournemouth player Klein, Anderson, Gay, Ward, Schlupp, Doucouré, Eze, Elise, Edouard, and Sahar. So, Aaron, seeing that on the screen at the moment, it's a side that should create chances, has flair, and one-on-ones, when you look at Sahar against potentially Smith, there's a good battle in there for Adam Smith.
Yeah, I think Smithy will be great in that battle. I think I remember back in a few years ago when Simon Francis did a brilliant job on Zaha. He obviously hasn't got as much pace as him, but he read the game so well, Frano, and Adam Smith can do the same. Well, I mean, what stands out to me there, obviously Joel Ward will come in at left back for Mitchell, and that's a boost for us because obviously he's not as good as Mitchell is. Out of that kind of front six, you've only really got one defensive player in there, which is Doucouré. Eze and Schlupp, we know, like to get up and down the wings with energy, and obviously the front three. So there's a potential there to win that midfield battle with Jeff and Lewis and Phil Billing if he plays there. So that's an opportunity for us to get down the flanks. So yes, they will cause us problems going forward, but I think we can cause them problems going forward as well.
I've done some research, and apparently Patrick Vieira has been trying Schlupp in midfield through when the Premier League stopped for the World Cup and during the World Cup break. So they've had like 3 or 4 friendlies, and that's why Schlupp's ended up in this role, because I naturally see him as quite an attacking left back or a left wing back. But yeah, let's see where Schlupp plays on Saturday. AFC Bournemouth then, Fantasy Football Scout there, predicting Travers, back four of Smith, Senesi, Kelly, Zamora, Christie, Lewis Cook, Lerma, Billing, Solanke, and more. So the interesting thing here is, Aaron, is Mepham fit? If Mepham's fit, who drops out? Does Kelly potentially go to left back? Does Christie come in, or Jadon Anthony? We know there's no Tavernier. Yeah. Does he go with 2 up top again? Did Moore do enough to start this game? That's the Football Fantasy Scouts prediction. When you're looking at that, what are you thinking?
I'm thinking if Mepham is well, because I believe it was an illness. If Mepham's well, he comes straight back into that team. The question is who for. Senesi was arguably one of the best players against Chelsea as well. And we know that Meps and Senesi have had a great partnership. in recent weeks. So for me, if we're playing a back four, and I really hope he doesn't stay with a five to shoehorn in certain players, then for me, Adam Smith obviously has to be right back. For me, Meps and Senesi are centre backs. The question then comes, do you get Jay-Z out of a team who we know, I love Jay-Z, he's great going forward, maybe not as good defensively as Lloyd Kelly. We've spoken countless times about Kelly not wanting to be left back. Obviously, he can do a job there, and he'd probably be very good at it. It gives us extra height as well, and he's got speed, and he's quick, and he's got a good left foot cross. But what he sees is he sees his future as a centre back, and he did look rusty. But if you're not going to play him, and he's not going to get that out of his system, so difficult one for me. As far as midfield goes, I think Anthony will certainly start, probably ahead of Christie in that formation, or even if it's a 4-3-3, then you're going to have Lewis, Jeff, and Billing, and then Anthony, Moore, and Dom. I think Moore, poor as he was at Chelsea, has to be in the team because we know what a threat he can be, and especially at home. And yeah, I'd 100% have him in that team. And so for me, don't know about the formation, but I think Anthony for Christie in that formation, and Meps comes in for Kelly for me. Right now, for me, I needs must, and I think Meps and Senesi, as I said, formed a great partnership, and I wouldn't want Jay-Z out of the team.
Head-to-heads then, I did speak about it earlier on, and I've gone for the banner below for head-to-heads at Dean Court in the Premier League. I think there's two draws, 2 losses, 1 win in 2018. All that information at the bottom is correct. This is finely balanced. I think it's score prediction time, Aaron, and it will be about what that lineup is at 2:00. It will be about the approach. Will we go in packs? Will it be about 2 or 3 players trying to get us up the pitch and create set pieces, although we don't really have a notable corner taker or anything like that? So fine margins through scoring at the moment. You go first, because I normally cop out, you see. So yeah. Big game, score prediction. What are you expecting?
I'm expecting us to be very much on the front foot. I'll be amazed if we don't line up like that. Shocked if we don't, really, to be honest with you, and give it a real go at home against a Palace team, against a game sandwiched between some very difficult games. So I'm quite confident. I'm kind of channeling my inner Leicester at home and Everton at home and elements of that Spurs at home game. If we play like that, I think we might have too much for them. I just want to see us go for it. So I'm going to go for a 2-1 win.
I was thinking 2-1 before anyone suggests that I've copped out. I am going for a 2-1. I've got to think positively. I think that Crystal Palace will score. I always think that potentially we will concede a goal in a football match. So then my head always says that we probably need to go and find 2 goals to win a football match. We have had clean sheets at home though, so it wouldn't put it past us to keep a clean sheet. Palace haven't scored in 2 games. So they're likely to score. They're going to go for it. They're going to see an opportunity of this new era under Gary O'Neill that's delicate, that he's looking to pick up those first points as confirmed head coach, and Patrick Vieira might lean on that. And I think, Aaron, who scores the first goal, although it's one of the most common phrases in the world, whoever scores the first goal could be really, really critical. I could see us going 2-0 up and conceding late and holding on, or we'll potentially have to do another Leicester and pull it back.
Yeah, look, there's going to be twists and turns throughout the game. As I said, I think there'll be at times when they're really going for us, because that's just the way his team's set up, and we'll put them under pressure as well. So, yeah, I'm not sure what order the goals will come in, but I think we'll nick it, because I think we have to. So yeah, I'll remain confident.
Should we just finish this off as positive as we can? Although we're looking at those fixtures ahead and we're saying that, look, if we don't pick up anything against Crystal Palace, then we go here. If we don't get anything there, then we go up. Then we go to Brentford. I mean, anything can happen in football, and we'd hope to think the percentages will say that we will pick up something. But until we do, it's going to be a real slog for us, and we've just got to play to our strengths. And I think that we've just got to show that ambition. That's our DNA. We might concede goals, but we might score 3 as well. And then we just got to make sure that we don't have too many leads and too many Tottenham days, and that we don't throw away those 2-0 leads, because we have shown that when we play to our strengths, we can score quite a few goals, and that's the best way that we're going to get points. And there is a big chance this weekend to get something, and we can do it. We can do it.
Yeah, for me, it is the best chance. We will concede, but we'll score as well, and I think that's the way to go. I mean, after, as you say, after the United game's gone, we've got Brentford away, as you say, we've got Forest at home. I mean, how big is that? Brighton away. I mean, none of them are easy, and then champions-elect Newcastle at home. And then Wolves away. So, I'm looking at our home games actually, Kirk, after Palace. So we've got Forest at home. Then we've got Newcastle at home, Manchester City at home, Liverpool at home, right? So, and then we're into April. So if we don't beat Palace at home or Forest at home, it's going to be tricky. And any away game's difficult. And thrown in amongst that is Arsenal away, Brighton away, Villa away. I mean, they're all decent. Leicester away, Tottenham away, So it's we need to pick up points in these games. I mean, it's critical, because these are the sort of games which will keep us up or not. If we can beat Palace at home, it takes us to 19 points, hopefully still 3 or 4 points clear the relegation zone. At the moment, there are 3 worse teams than us. But how long that stays the case is the question.
I wish you hadn't told me that. Thanks, Aaron. Really appreciate you coming on on this match preview, and I hope you look forward to the game.
Yeah, pleasure as always. And let's hope for 3 points as we give us all a happy new year.
Absolutely. Let's go into 2023. I always do think at the start of the season, though, when I look at the fixtures, I think, where are we going to get 1 point from? And we're currently on 16. So look, we've got a really good chance. Thank you to the fans. If you're Crystal Palace fans, Bournemouth fans, thank you for checking out this video. Please do hit the like button. As I said, we do want to try and get 50 likes. So really appreciate that. But more importantly, do let us know your thoughts in the comments and those score predictions. Throw a goal scorer in there as well if you think AFC Bournemouth will score. But that's your match preview for AFC Bournemouth versus Crystal Palace, the last game of 2022. We will see you on the next one in 2023. Up the cherries.
Up the cherries.